Well, my older brother, uh, during the war, he had a rifle. Of course, you had to turn it into the German, you know. He didn't. He kept it over his house. He lived in a big city. So I was out there visiting him, and he asked me if he owned a little cabin out in the forest, you know. So he asked me to, being I was just a kid, he said, yeah, they won't notice you as much as with, you know, a grown man. He said, we're going to put a rifle among a bunch of fishing poles, you know, in a leather pouch like. So I said, well, sure, why not? So put the rifle in the inside and all that, and I goes out, get on the streetcar, you know, and instead of going in where you sit down, I just stood in the platform, you know, there's a bar in there you hang on to. Because I didn't want to go with all those big fishing pole in there. Wouldn't you know, the next stop, here come a German officer. And he stood by me, you know, he started talking, he wanted to know, was I, you going fishing? I said, yeah, not today. I said, but yeah, I go fishing. You want to know, did you catch any? So you start telling me about him when he was a kid. He used to fish in Germany, you know, some creek somewhere. And after that, you know, he got off it there. He never asked me no question, nothing. If he'd knew there was a rifle inside of those fishing poles, I'd have been in trouble, even if I was a kid. So I made it to my brother's cabin, and that's where I took the rifle. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, someday I'll explain to you when what happened during the war. You know, we almost got killed several times. We got in the middle of a major bomb bombardment. One in the city. See, when the German attacked Belgium in 1940, Belgium and France, the king of Belgium came on the radio. He suggested that we leave our homes and take whatever we can, go to southern France, because they figured that Belgium is going to be a major battlefield between the Allied French troops and British and Belgium. And but it didn't work that way. The Germans were prepared for war, and the Allies were not. Well, anyway, because nobody knew that for sure, you know. So my dad didn't want to leave. You know, we had a farm, you know, cattle and stuff. And finally, my mother and daughter and my sister and my mom's niece come in with her family and her teenage daughter. We just start to cry. Well, the Germans going to rape us and they're going to shoot the man. It's a story that, you know, they didn't do that. Well, anyway, finally my dad designed. So, okay, so we took off with a team of horses and a wagon, can you imagine? Put all stuff in there, you know, 11 people. And we heading for west to France. And we got in a city they call Avel in this northern France. And we came in right in the middle of a bombing. There was French troops going through the city, a bunch of trucks, army trucks and stuff. And the bomb was falling. The problem, they were falling probably a quarter of a mile from us. We didn't, you know, it was far enough you didn't get killed. But anyway, after they quit bombing, the bomber was going around. We could hear him. My dad whipped the horse and we went right through the city and then gallop, you know. And boy, there was trucks on fire, French army trucks, and the bomb fell next to it. There was French soldiers killed, and I remember there was a French soldier who was sitting on this sidecar, you know what a sidecar is. And he was dead, but he was still hanging on to the handlebar, and there was blood all over him. It must have been a shrapnel that hit him in his face, because he was just blood all over. So we got out of there. And the next day, I think we ran into another bombing. We came into this big intersection, and there was French troops again. And this time we were real close. We could see the bomb leaving the bombers out there. And it didn't last very long, but long enough to scare the dickens out of you. We're hidden in the ditches, you know. And when we decided to cross that, after there was a French trooper going, uh, we, we looked to the right, there was a young lady alone in the ditch. She was having her baby. She got scared and she was having her baby there, right in the open. And there was two Catholic nuns that was helping her, which was a blessing for her. But she was all by herself there. Can you imagine that? The war is terrible. We got attacked by the German fighter plane. They dropped a bomb. That must have been, I don't know, from here to the mailbox from us. But it was far enough. It didn't bother us, you know. Then we kept going. We ended up in a city in France with the name of Saint Quentin. And we could see as we come in close to the city, the French army had built up a fortification there. You could see artillery in there and everything, a bunch of soldiers. And we looked to the east, back of us, we could see tank coming over across the field, open field, you know. I mean, tank one after another. And my sister, she asked a couple of French soldiers that was looking there with binoculars. And she said, well, this tank is that? She said, certainly for, he said, that's not ours, it's German. Well, we were all scared. You know, I figured the French opened fire on these tanks, and the tank going to shoot back. We were right in the middle with thousands of civilians, you know. But the French decided to give up. They put the white flag up. It was a good decision. What could they have done? There must have been 50 tanks there. That's what they call the point, see? That it's coming in. The tank come first, then the infantry. You know. And we stood there waiting. And pretty soon they come down. They stopped, see, all the tanks, to see what the French was going to do. And one tank came right alongside of it. My dad was standing there with another man. And comes this young German officer, you know, out of the tank. He said, "Where are you people going? You know, there's thousands of us on, you know." And we said, "Well, we got order from our king to get away from the German, that German was going to rape the women and all that stuff." I remember his words. Well, the German of 1940 are not the German of 1914. And you people turn around, go back to your homes. And he gave an order, and the German soldier come out with, give us a bottle of wine each, to my dad and the other fellow, and they give him a little niece some candy. they were not, well, of course they were fighting a war, you know, but they were not to kill civilians. Oh, there's more to it, but you probably don't want to hear it. The worst one, that's when we finally made it back to Belgium, you know. And my dad said, well, there's a little village down here, there's people, a farm out there. I know the people. So we could go there, and maybe my mom and sister, they wanted to sleep in the bed, you know, we slept out and open. And we got there, we noticed the German had taken over some big farm out there. They had fighter planes, you know, used for landing, you know. Of course, they were camouflage in the woods, you know. But they never said anything to us. Look, we found that house, and the people from that house were left their home too. So there was a bunch of strangers in there. A lot of them. They were sleeping in a bedroom and a living room. So we went into it. The only place left was the place where they keep cattle and stuff. You know, the stable. So they spread some straw, and we all slept in there. But 1 o'clock in the morning, we heard this plane that was circling around, you know. And my dad woke us up. He said, something strange. I said, that plane, why? He was shooting those flares, you know, they could see what's going on. And first thing you know, an explosion, something terrible. I mean, I could still feel the vacuum was sucking you right out. And it had a big steel door on that barn. It just flew that. We found the next morning about 75 feet out in the field. They had well, it was a French plane, and they knew the Germans were there. And they saw these cars and truck and our wagon. Well, that's how they figured it was German. It's the only thing we could figure. So they were aiming right at us. In not a second, if he'd have waited another second, the pilot, that bomb would have fell right on, kill about 50 people. It was about 40 people in that house beside us. And oh my God, that's the closest. And we thought we were safe back in Belgium. After that, we made it safely home, but oh my, it's terrible. I was just a little kid. I was 12 years old. Well, after the German caught up with us, they said, well, the war's over for us, but it wasn't. Because when we turned around, my dad, it was his decision. He wanted to go to this village. Everybody else was going. There was a Catholic priest in this intersection. He said, you people don't go to the left because the French army and the German are fighting. It's a battleground. Don't go that way. We could hear machine gun fire and all that going on. We could see the German fighter diving. We didn't see the bomb, but we could see the smoke. They were fighting. And my dad, he made the decision to go to the left. That priest told him not to go. They go to the right. You'd be safe. See, and we got caught right in the middle of the battlefield. It's twice a German fighter plane came down real low and checked us out because they didn't know whether we were, from the French army or we were right. Just was the front line. See, a woman, mom, and sister, they were just beside themselves. And we finally made it to the village, and we came in the curve like. There was a German soldier with a cannon right in the middle of the road. And I think they probably thought that was a French coming in with a wagon. They didn't know, They were ready to fire. And boy, did they yell at us in German. We don't know. I don't know what they were saying. But my dad had to guide the horses right in the ditch to miss them. They were right in the middle, get ready to fire, And we got into the village, and my mom said, let's see if we can find a stable made out of, in Europe, most of the buildings are made out of stones and bricks. She was afraid of the planes, they were fighting, the dogfight, between the German and the French. And they opened the door of this stable, and man, it was about 25, 30 French soldiers dead lying there on the street. Needless to say, my mom didn't want to stay there. We finally got out of there. We went into the next village. Nothing to be remember, but it did happen.